So according to NBC Dateline, watch the Dateline episode, The Terrible Night on King Road right now, but don't try to effing record it or don't try to screen snapshot it, because we'll block that shit out due to digital rights management, even though it's under fair use and it should be used. And the reason I'm ranting off the bat is something big came up today and I wanted to share it with you. And I wanted to give you video footage from the terrible night on King Road. And for the life of me, every program I have, they're blocking out the image because I can't show you the video. I can't even take a screenshot of the video. And being an IT guy, I could spend time and get around it. But then I'm reminded that even to do that, if I have to spend so much time getting around their DRM, then I'm violating those rules. And so while I'm allowed under fair use to talk about the video that they want you so bad to watch, they won't let me play it for you, even in small little 10-second snippets, so I can show you what I'm going to talk about today. Here's the big kicker. Somebody brought up something that I can't believe I've missed this entire time. I want to show it to you in detail to explain the narrative that they've been telling us, and an important detail that unless I've missed something all this time, and it is possible that I've missed something all this time, there's a huge thing they're not telling us and showing us that should blow the lid off the whole Brian Kohberger was there that night story and the narrative that they're painting. Keep in mind, for example, this is where we're going to go with this footage. Or I can't show you the footage. Where we're going to go with this story today is that according to Howard Bloom's book, When the Night Comes Falling, and I'm going to pull that up for you real quick. So the gist of it, I just recorded this chapter today, When the Night Comes Falling. This is chapter, I don't know, 25. Yeah, chapter 25. And I just recorded this for my ongoing book series. But I was paying attention to this right here. Payne, that's Corporal Payne from Moscow PD, found nothing when he was looking for phone records showing Kohberger's go-abouts during the night of the killing. You know, so he wanted to be able to place Brian Kohberger at the scene, but he couldn't because, oh my gosh, he was so smart. Brian Kohberger turned off his phone before going to the murder scene. Not smart enough to leave his phone at home. Instead, take it with you so that you're on the way to the murder scene and then turn it off and then turn it back on as you're coming back from the murder scene, because he wasn't smart enough to not do that. He was smart enough to turn it off on the way to the murder scene on the way back, but apparently not smart enough to just leave his phone at home and not take his own car to the crime scene. Okay, yes, I'm beating a dead horse. But the point being is that as this book and this chapter and this narrative is trying to point out that Brian Kohberger turned his phone off to go to do the murders and then turned his phone back on as he's returning from the murders, one of the things that they pointed out was how they came on to a lucky strike when they realized that his phone also returned to the scene of the crime at 9 o'clock the next morning. Oh my God, how did we miss this? Now, I know we didn't miss the Brian Kohberger came back to the scene of the crime the next morning, because that's been out there in the media for forever. Everybody uses that for the guilters will say, oh my God, Mr. Devil's Advocates, not only do they have his DNA at the scene and they have his car going to and from the crime scene, but he even was going back and gloating in it and going back to the murder scene after it, the day of the murders. Well, let's dig into something that a user on my channel pointed out to me in the comments. And I'm like, how the F did I miss that? And I don't know if I think it was a she, and if I can find the username, I'll give her credit in this video somehow, or at least in the notes down below, if I could find out who it is. I'm having a hard time finding her comment, but she made a comment and I'm like, did she hear that from someplace else? Or is she just like a major super sleuth? Because she just pointed out the obvious question that's been staring me in the face and I missed it this entire time. Let's cover this real quick. And so they're talking about, trying to track the phone and prove that Brian Kohberger was there, but he had the phone turned off. And then here's the part that I want to really focus in on. So here's where they're talking about the tracking the phone and the video footage, 3:29 a.m. to 4 o'clock in the morning. The car returns a fourth time at 4:04 in the morning, only to abruptly disappear from the site. Yet at 4:20, there is again hightailing out of Moscow at breakneck speed. Now, here's where it gets confusing. I even get a little bit of a headache when I'm trying to come up with what video footage caught the vehicle, didn't catch the vehicle. Is suspect vehicle one the same vehicle all the way through? But it's the 4:20 a.m. thing that bugs me the most. We have seen footage of the time up to 4:07 a.m. I found out through further investigation today, and again, maybe I'm missing something and I've missed it all along, that the prosecution has had footage up to 4:07 a.m. from the Linda Lane footage, up to 4:07 a.m. And the 4:20 a.m. stamp of the car speeding away from the crime scene at 4:20 in the morning was not publicly released to the public. And in fact, when you dig even further, you will find that the property management company of 2 residences on Linda Lane. The property management company only had video up to 4:07 a.m. Apparently not any further, not 4:20, 4:07 a.m. I find that highly suspicious. The property management company could only give them right up to 4:07 when the car arrived and nothing after. That's highly suspicious to me. And I guess, again, maybe I'm missing something and you guys can correct me and help me, because again, my mind's going to explode if what I'm thinking is true, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to admit, maybe I'm wrong. So property management company turns over footage up to 4:07 a.m., nothing further. But then we were told that the car is seen again at 4:20 a.m. speeding away from the crime scene. I am told on the NBC Dateline episode, which I can't air for you because NBC is blocking it. It won't let me stream it, won't let me screenshot it, won't let me do anything with it to even show it to you. But they want you to watch it, but you can't talk about it. They say in never seen before footage. Never seen before footage. Now, maybe they're lying. Maybe you internet sleuths have done a great job and you've seen this footage long before they aired it. But most people I know who saw it, when we watched that episode, we went, holy shit, that's the most crystal clear image I've ever seen of this car. Where did they get that footage for? I've never seen that before. And in fact, Dateline brags, never seen before footage. What was that footage? By the way, that footage showed a timestamp of the car speeding away at 4:20 in the morning. Where have we seen that before? I don't remember seeing that before. All of a sudden, Dateline has, quote unquote, never seen before footage at 4:20 in the morning showing the car leaving the scene. And it's crystal clear imagery. I wish I could freaking show it to you. There's no doubt about seeing the car. You do see headlights because it's, well, 4 o'clock in the morning and it's dark. So the headlights are blurring out any possibility of being able to see the license plate, by the way, on the front or the back, nor can you see a driver in the car. But what you can see very clearly is a car that looks light in color, whether it's white, whether it's yellow, whether it's whatever, we don't know because the night vision camera. But the point being is you see a light colored car and it's clear as day, razor sharp. I had never seen images that sharp. Most people I saw online were saying, I've never seen images that sharp. Where did that footage come from? Well, where did that footage come from? I think the mystery is this. It came from the landlord of the same place where the property management company was turning over videos to the police. Now, here's where it gets kind of confusing. Let me see if I can break this down for you. So this is an article about the video footage. The owner of the property, Kane Frantich, on November 14th, was asked for surveillance footage from his 6-unit Linda Lane vehicle apartment complex, and he downloaded it and gave them everything from 2 a.m. through noon on Sunday. Noon. Okay, so this footage includes all the way through noon. The footage that they obtained from the property management company of Linda Lane only gave them apparently till 4:07 a.m. Just conveniently enough time to get the vehicle showing up at the scene, and that's it. Apparently they had nothing else to give law enforcement, or we've been told of nothing else, unless I'm missing something. Again, I'm overstating it because I want to be wrong about this, and I want you guys to jump all over me and go, devil's advocates, you're an idiot. Everybody knows the answer to this question. But from what I understand, it has been verified. I've tried to vet it a bunch of times. The property management company turned over footage only to 4:07 a.m. It's the property owner who gave raw footage, hours and hours, 12 hours footage that covered a period of time from 2 o'clock in the morning all the way through noon. All right. So this is the key. His rental building and camera sit on a hill facing Taylor Road on the main street. And that connects 1122 King Road. The car that Frantich described as both white and light colored traveled on the Taylor Road from 2:45 a.m. to 3:15. He's got side profile vehicles from his particular property. It's not the Linda Lane footage that we usually see. I don't think it's the Linda Lane footage that was shown on Dateline NBC, which is the property owners. Okay, there's a difference between the property management company. And again, I know that a lot of you already know this, but I'm beating a dead horse for a reason, because this is the key to it all. So just for this map, by the way, if you look at this map, over in here is going to be the King Road murders. That where's where it's at. Here, where I'm circling, if you can see on my computer, this is 1330 and 1320. These are the Linda Lane footages. Property management company shows the car doing 3-point turns around here. Property management company gives them video up to 4:07 a.m., but not the 4:20 a.m. car speeding away at a high rate of speed. That is seen from the raw footage of the landlord who owns the properties of these properties. So there's two different companies involved. And the big key is this: that Dateline NBC thing that I can't show you showed incredible footage, crystal clear, razor sharp footage that I can't show you on screen of that timestamp at 4:20 in the morning of the vehicle speeding off. And it is crystal clear, clear as day. Now, why am I making a big deal about it? Because let's take a look at, again, Howard Bloom's book, When the Night Comes Falling. And they're talking about how they're finding the footage and the surveillance footage, and they know Bryan Kohberger's name, and they've got cell phone records, and they can't put him at the house. But what they can point him to is the next morning when Bryan Kohberger returns to the scene of the crime. Bum, bum, bum. There was also a tantalizing coda to the drama. Payne, that's Corporal Payne from Moscow PD, and the FBI expert had stitched together. At 9 a.m. that Sunday morning, Kohberger's phone left Pullman and headed back towards Moscow. Then for 9 long minutes, in an interlude heavy with mystery, the phone was pinging like crazy off the cell tower that serviced the King Road house. Stop for a moment. I pointed this out in a previous video. Pinging the tower that services the house is misleading language. It doesn't mean that Bryan Kohberger's car was at the house. It means it touched the range up to 12 or 14 miles of the cell tower that services the house. And if you drive anywhere in Moscow, you're going to probably touch the range of the cell phone tower that services the house. It does not put Bryan Kohberger at the house. Misleading, and they're trying to mislead the public. They've done really good at it for so far. They're trying to mislead the jury. They're going to try to do that in a court of law. That because his phone touched the tower that services the house, that somehow places Kohberger at the house. And then they follow with this gem right here. For many of the cops on the task force, the explanation was clear. The murderer was returning to the scene of the crime. Let's stop for a minute and use common sense as I end on this thought. 9 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be bright. The sun is going to be out. We know from the footage, if that footage is the landlord's property footage never seen before in the public of the vehicles going off at 4:20 in the morning. And if I could show it to you, you would see there's no mistaking that if it was daylight and you're looking at that same camera, and if it's daylight, you will see not only the car, the license plate, you'll be able to see the driver, you'll be able to see everything, because it's a clear, crystal clear shot of what it was at. So now you have to ask yourself the question: if the landlord turned over video footage through noon of that day and Kohberger returned to the scene of the crime, this should be an open and shut case. Now we've got Kohberger returning to this. Well, even then it wouldn't be necessarily, because I can already tell you that I can come up with another explanation of how that could happen. But certainly if you got Bryan Kohberger in his car coming back onto the same camera that he was seen speeding away from at 4:20 in the morning the next day to drive back and gloat over his murder scene, that would be all over the news, wouldn't it? We would see that all over. Bright daylight shot, Bryan Kohberger returning to the house. But guess what we don't see? We don't see any daylight footage. Even though we know the footage was turned over to law enforcement. We've got it right here in this article, where it says that the owner of the property downloaded and gave law enforcement everything from 2 a.m. through noon on Sunday the 13th. They have footage of that house and that corner. Well, not the house so much, but the corner that they caught the vehicle going to the scene of the crime the night before. So unless you want to believe Bryan Kohberger decided to take a completely different route back to the house, which is possible, it's very unlikely. If you look at the maps, basically there's not a lot of ways to get here. And most of them are going to take you right past this, which is where the footage is going to see your car. So you would have to come in a back way and get there. And is it possible? Maybe. But again, we are led to believe that they want to continue to tell you in the narrative that Bryan Kohberger returned to the scene of the crime the next morning. And yet, where's the effing footage? Where's any daylight footage? You've got all this great surveillance footage of cars. Where is the daylight footage of Bryan Kohberger going back to the scene of the crime in broad daylight in his car? All we get is footage of a nighttime vehicle with headlights that blur things out and may or may not even be the same Elantra. They've admitted there's 20,000 or 21,000 Elantras in the area. Could be anybody's Elantra. But The definitive proof was that razor sharp, crystal clear landlord video at 4:20 in the morning. If they've got that shot, and if Brian Kohberger went back the next morning to gloat over a scene, then show it to us. Let anybody see it. Now, maybe this is the smoking gun. Maybe in court, the jury is going to see that. Maybe it's just been so gagged that we never get to see it, and they've got it clear as day. Brian Kohberger returning to the scene of the crime. Maybe they're keeping that under wraps. But I have to believe after all this time, they don't have that video. With the amount of stuff that they are leaking to the public to prove to you, America, that Brian Kohberger is guilty, all they would have to do is show you the video of him showing up clear as day on that video footage from that same camera the next morning to return to the scene of the crime, and they'd have you all in the back pocket. Even if there could be an explanation for that, they'd have you all in the back pocket, but they haven't. So it makes you wonder, if you're going to go through all of these efforts to convince America that he's the killer, then why, when you brag that we know he returned to the scene of the crime, we know he returned to the scene of the crime, all the cops knew it. Where's the video? I never even thought about this before. Thanks to this user, by the way, who just was smart enough to be like, hey, that would be in broad daylight. Why don't we see that? Why don't we see that? All right, so maybe I missed something. Let me know, guys. Did I miss something? Let me know.